By the time the Quebec Nordiques arrived in the NHL, they weren't there yet as Stanley Cup contenders, but it only took a couple of seasons for them to make it into the semifinal round. Were it not for the Montreal Canadiens and the strength of the New York Islanders, they would probably have won at least one or two cups up until 1985, until Edmonton took over. Now, the 79-80 Quebec Nordique season was their 8th season overall and first in the NHL, because in the off-season of 78-79, towards 79-80, Hartford, Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Quebec joined the NHL. And their last season in the WHA, they finished the second best record in the league with 41-34-5 with 87 points. They were 77 AFCO Cup champions, are always perennial top four in the association. Now, the Nordiques were swept by the Jets, eventual AFCO Cup champions, in the 79 WHA semifinals. But in their first year in the NHL, the team fell out of the playoffs with a 25-44-11 record. This was kind of deceiving, ladies and gentlemen, because they had a very good home tally of 17-16-7, but they couldn't win on the road, 8-28-4. 248 goals for, 313 against. Now, GM Maurice Villiot, head coach Jacques Demers, and captain Marc Tardif led it very strong at the Colisée Quebec, but even the fan base was down a little bit, only 10,742 fans per contest on average at the Colisée, and most of their prospects were locked with the Syracuse Firebirds that year. Now, they were put in what was the Adams Division, or the Wales Conference. Now, as many of the WHA players had their rights held by NHL teams, those NHL teams were allowed to reclaim their players. In order to keep the NHL from taking all the talent from the WHA to their NHL teams, each incoming franchise was allowed to protect up to 2 goalies and 2 skaters. Now, these were designated as priority selections in the 1979 NHL expansion draft. Now, the Nordiques eventually made a deal with the Blackhawks, in which Quebec would keep Aurel Buddy-Cloutier in exchange for a Nordiques first-round pick in the 1980 NHL entry draft, and this worked to their benefit, as Cloutier led in goals and assists and points, 42-47-89. Now, Quebec also made a deal with the Montreal Canadiens, in which Montreal selected Dan Geoffrion and Alain Côté from the Nordiques, rather than former Hab Marc Tardif and Richard David. In exchange for this, the Nordiques relinquished a third-round pick in the 80 NHL entry draft, a second-rounder in 81, and that the Nordiques would draft Alain Côté from the Canadiens at the 79 NHL expansion draft. Now, on June 28, 79, the Nordiques acquired veteran Jimmy Hislop from the Jets in exchange for Barry Legge. Hislop had played with the Cincinnati Stingers in 79 as he scored 30 goals and 70 points in 80 games. But the big mistake of the season, in my opinion, the Nordiques acquired goaltender Gordon Augusta from the New York Islanders for goalie Richard Brodeur. Augusta had played the 79 season with the Fort Wayne Texans, earning a 25-29-4 record with a 3.51 GAA and an 87.7 save percentage. Brodeur had been with the Nordiques during his entire existence in the WHA, as in 79 he had a 25-13-3 record with a 3.11 GAA and a 90.1 save percentage, so probably salary dump, as we say. Now, at the 1979 NHL entry draft, the Nordiques selected the great Michel Goulet from the Birmingham Bulls of the WHA in the first round, 20th overall, and in 78 games with the Bulls in 79 as an underage player, he had 28 goals and 58 points. In the second round, Quebec selected Dale Hunter from the Sudbury Wolves of the Ontario Major Junior Hockey League. Hunter scored 34 goals and 85 points in 61 games during the 79 season. This great draft continued in the fourth round, where the Nordiques selected Anton Stastny from Slovan CHZID Bratislava of the Czechoslovakian First Ice Hockey League. He scored 32 goals and 51 points in 44 games during the 79 season. Now, Quebec had also signed free agent Robbie Ftorek on August 13th, who played the 79 season with the Stingers of the WHA. He finished second in WHA scoring with 39 goals and 77 assists for Cincinnati, with 116 points in 80 games. Fedoruk had previous NHL experience, as in 15 games with the Red Wings from 72 to 74. He scored 2 goals and added an additional 5 assists. Now, the regular season, he played in the first NHL game ever on October 10, 79 in La Colisée, when he lost 5-3 to the Atlanta Flames. The Nordiques won their first ever NHL game in their third contest, defeating Colorado 5-2 in Denver. Now, during the first half of the season, the Nordiques were very competitive, earning a 17-7-6 record as they held on to a playoff position. However, wins were few and far between in the second half of the year, as Quebec fell in last place, and again, 25-44-11. Only 8 wins after in the second half of the season, so pretty rough. Now, offensively, the Nordiques were led by rigors. Again, he had 89 points. He also scored 3 goals in his National Hockey League debut. Tardif had another solid season, 33 goals and 68 points, while Goulet had 22 goals and 54 points to finish third in the league scoring. On the blue line, Dale Hoganson earned 40 points, while Pierre-Lacroix had 9 goals and 30 points. The rugged Paul Baxter led the club with 145 minutes and penalties. In goal, Michel Dion saw most of the action with 50 games, 15 wins, and a 3.7 GAA, as well as 2 shutouts. Now, they were in the division with Buffalo, Boston, Minnesota, and Toronto, and again, 14 points in the playoffs behind Toronto. The second half of the season, though, ladies and gentlemen, was terrible. They have several losing streaks, and by my estimation, ladies and gentlemen, they went winless in their last 8 games of the regular season. And the big problem too is when they're on the road, it was a rough go. So Fedoruk had 51 points in 52 games, and the great Rich Leduc was 27-48 in 75 contests. Now, Augusta had a terrible season, 5-12-3 with a 4.15, and again the journeyman Ron Lowe, former Capital, 5-7-2 in 15 games. Now, in the draft, the Quebec's expansion draft selections were Dave Farish from the Rangers, a defenseman, Jerry Hart from the Islanders, Ron Lowe from Detroit, Pierre Plante, forward from the Rangers, Blair Stewart from Washington, John Baby, who did a podcast recently, from Minnesota, John Smirk from St. Louis, Dave Parlow, a goalie from Boston, Ken Cusick, Minnesota, Roland Cloutier from Detroit, Terry Martin from Buffalo, Jamie Masters from St. Louis, Hartland Monahan from LA, Ron Andruff from Colorado, former Hab, Alain Côté from Montreal, and Lars Zellerstrom for the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the roster that year, goalie Lowe, Augustin Dion, defenseman Wally Weir, Baxter, Gary Lariviere, Jerry Hart, Francois Lacombe, Dave Farish, Terry Johnson, Barry Legge, Pierre Lacroix, Greg Tubut, and Dale Hoganson. Wingers and centers including Marc Tardif, Réal Cloutier, Jimmy Hislop, Barry Plante, Kurt Brackenbury, Michel Goulet, Johnny Smirk, Alain Côté, Terry Martin, Reggie Thomas, the Jacques Richard project, who came great in the second year with 50 goals, Gilles Bellido, Bernie Saunders, one of the first Canadian black skaters in the NHL, Richard David, Louis Schleger, and Paul Stewart. Centers included Robbie Fedoruk, Rich Leduc, Bob Finchner, Blair Stewart, John Stewart, a lot of Stewarts, Roland Cloutier. Jacques Demers was coach. Now, Quebec's draft picks from the Montreal Quebec selections included Michel Goulet, Dale Hunter, Lee Norwood, Anton Stachny, Pierre Lacroix, and Scott McGowan. And big trades that year, of course, was Hartland Monahan sent to St. Louis, Dave Parlow sent to Washington, Barry Melrose for Hislop and Legge to Winnipeg, Augusta for Brodeur, Reggie Thomas to Quebec for Farish and Terry Martin, and of course Ron Chipperfield for Ron Lowe, and then Barry Legge was left go May 26. And free agent signings: Bernie Saunders, Robert Fedoruk, Francis Simak, Dave Pichette, Jacques Richard, and Miroslav Friescher, and Ken Klizek as well. So a very interesting, lot of stars, a lot of potential, but like I said, the road killed them that year, because with only 8 victories, in that side of the league, as we say, it was a rough go. So, ladies and gentlemen, many YouTubes on the 79-80 season in Quebec. There's a few, if I'm not mistaken, contests against the Habs, a couple of games against the Rangers. But to see, Ron Lowe in a Quebec jersey, it's kind of bizarre because we're so used to him being outside, the francophone influence of a major pro. But Fatorik, it was kind of weird. I think in the opening game he spoke French, so he endeared himself to the fans. Fatorik was a fan favorite, as was Buddy Cloutier. But Jacques Richard exploring the next year. That's in a previous podcast. Check that out as well on our channel. Thanks for listening. Bye.